beautiful out here in the woods just walking around, and they gave me an idea. I thought maybe I'd see if there's anything that I could make some food with, as I'm always enjoying a good foray, and I've been a long time forager. This is a good day to do it. This time of year, as you can see, there's a lot of American knotweed out here, but I'm really looking for something right here, which is right in front of me here. And these are stinging nettles. Beautiful looking, actually. And I thought I would pick them and make a soup. Maybe I'll do like a little spinach, potato, onion, and wild stinging nettle soup today, which is really high in vitamins and really good for you. So I'm going to pick a few of these, and what I'm going to do is just fill up my basket. Just always have to have a basket with you. And I'm just going to take the tops of these. You can see this is a beautiful one right here. And all I'm going to do is break the tops off. They're actually good for about, the first 6 or 7 inches. This time of year, they're always good. This time of year, they're super tender. So I'm going to fill up my basket, and I guess I'll go home and I'll cook these up for soup for the family. Okay, I'm back from the walk, and I have these beautiful wild stinging nettles that I thought would be great to make a soup. Now, I love making soups, especially in the winter or early spring when it's really cold outside. It really is nice and warming, and it's really refreshing, and nurturing at the same time. So the most important thing is when you make soup is that you need to build flavor. A lot of people, they just put everything into a pot and they cook it, but you really don't want to do that. What you want to do is you just want to start by sauteing your onions, and depending on what color the soup is going to be, whether it's going to be a dark soup or a light soup, will dictate whether the onions are cooked very fast or very slow. In this case, I'm not looking to get a lot of color because I'm looking for a little bit more edge of a green flavor here. Okay, so we're going to just take these, and all I'm doing is cutting in those 3 pieces because I do want a little bit of a bite as far as what's on the soup spoon itself. One of my sort of rules of thumb is to make sure that the onion itself or any of the vegetables in the soup are not bigger than the spoon itself. So to start with that, what we're going to do is just slide this into my pot, and we're going to take this and slow cook it with just a little bit of olive oil. And about a medium heat. And while we're doing that, I can start preparing the rest of the vegetables. And I'm going to also put a little bit of a cover on it, just a cover to keep it from getting too much color. I'm not looking for color here. All right? So after that, I'm going to do my potatoes. Potatoes will be the next thing that go in there. And again, I'm just looking for the size of the potatoes just to be enough so you can get it on a soup spoon. Now, I use golden potatoes in this case. These are Yukon Golds. I like them because they're a little sweeter than baking potatoes, but if that's what you have in your house, you can use baking potatoes too. It just happens to be my preference. It's important that they're uniform, or at least as much as possible, because you want them to cook the same time, more or less. And this soup is actually going to be not a cream soup, but it's going to be a soup that's going to be more of a broth style, but I am going to do a little trick, which is take some of these potatoes and we're going to cook them, and we're going to puree them. And the reason we're going to do that is to add a little bit of body to the soup. And I'm going to do that without cream or without any fat. So there's no cream and there's no flour in this soup at all. It's just all vegetables. So you can hear the onions. They're starting to cook very slowly. And then we're going to also add some garlic once I'm done with this. So now we have our potatoes. What I'm going to do is some of the potatoes I'm going to put on the side. And what I'm going to end up doing here is having these potatoes be my thickener, because potatoes obviously have a lot of starch, so they'll thicken up very nicely. It's a little too much water. I'm going to pour a little bit of water on, and then I'm going to cook those. So as my soup's going, I can get that ready for the final part of the soup. You don't have to do this, but I thought it was a nice little dish. Now the onions, we're just sweating them off. And when they're cooking, I'm going to take a little bit of garlic. I love garlic for this soup. The inspiration for this soup, obviously, with the nettles, is all these wonderful herbaceous flavors, and having onions and garlic and potatoes really lend to that flavor. So that's what we have. When you're doing a garlic, all you have to do is really crush it, just enough to peel it. And it comes right off, makes it nice and easy. And usually I'll cut this and then I'll put salt on it, but in this case I'm looking for some very thin slivers. And the reason is going to give all these wonderful garlic flavors and slices of garlic in that as well. So that's the first step for the soup. Once the potatoes are ready to go into the onions, you can see right now the onions are getting nice and translucent. And we want to make sure that they cook. Again, when I talked about soup having layers and layers of flavor, the way you get those layers of flavor is by cooking onions. If you took raw onions and put it in water, you're not going to get the same flavor. You know, if you cooked onions at home, how much flavor you get when you saute them. Because really what's happening is you're breaking down the sugars and it's giving a nice sweetness. So that's what I'm looking for in these onions. Once I get to that point, I'm going to slide in my potatoes and my onion and my garlic all mixed together now. Okay, and now we'll go back on the stove. And we're going to let that sweat out for another 5 minutes. And again, as I talked about, just let it cook. Don't rush it. Let it slowly cook together. And all the flavors will start to develop. They've been cooking for about 5 minutes. You can see that the onions are cooked beautifully, but no color. I'm not looking for color here. And the potatoes are starting to cook as well as the garlic, and it really smells good. Now, what I want to do is add another layer of flavor, and I'm going to start by a little white wine, which is going to be the same wine I'm going to serve with this, because as soon as I thought I was going to do this soup, I was thinking I'd do a Verdon Jaune Châteauneuf de Pape Blanc. And it's wonderful because it has all these wonderful sort of herbaceous and honeysuckle and floral edges to it. So that was the reason behind that, but we'll get to that later. And then what I do is I'm just deglazing the pan. It's taking some of the flavor from the bottom of the pan, and it's now incorporated into the soup. I'm gonna let that cook for about a minute. Okay, so the next step after the wine is added and it's cooked down on the soup is to add a stock. Typically I'd love to use chicken stock, but my daughter is a vegan, so I made some broccoli. When I steamed my broccoli yesterday, I actually saved the water, so it's a good way of saving the liquid by reserving it. So when you're making risotto or whatever you're making, you can use this instead of chicken stock. So that's exactly what we have here. This is just broccoli water, so it's better than just using water. So you can do the same thing with celery, onions, whatever. So I'm going to pour that into this soup, and we're going to let this cook for about 15 minutes. And because it takes about 15 minutes for the potatoes to be where I want them to be, which is a nice tender potato. All right, so the soup's all ready, and what I did is I waited to the very end to add my greens. And because greens, when you cook them, they turn brown quickly. So if you're making this soup at home, my recommendation would be, number one, wait till the last second to add them until you're ready to do it, until you're ready to eat. What I'm doing is just a rough chop. And the reason I'm rough chopping this is because, again, I don't want it bigger than the spoon itself. So that's where I am right now. Now, some people won't even wear gloves on this because these are stinging nettles. Stinging nettles can sting, but I'm okay with it. But some people would prefer to wear gloves. You cannot eat this raw, so make sure you cook it. Very important, do not eat nettles raw. You have to cook them first. All right, so these are all ready. They're just gonna go into the soup. the soup is ready to go. So we're just going to slide this in here. The nettles inside. And like I said, at this point is only going to take another 2 minutes. When you walk over to the stove now, you can see that the nettles are turning green right quickly now. And see how wonderful this soup looks. And you want to cook this for about 2 minutes. So what I'm going to cook right now, I'm just going to add some salt, seasoning, and pepper. I don't need anything else. There's so many flavors going on in this already that you don't really need anything else. So pepper and salt is what I would recommend. And on the other side, I mentioned earlier having this wonderful potato mix that's going to actually thicken that up just a hair. And so what I'm going to do is add some spinach to my water. The potatoes are cooked already. I'm just going to push those down for a minute. And while that's cooking, I'm going to let that cook for about a minute. Okay, so now the soup is, oh yeah, it smells so good. It's ready to go. We have this wonderful soup that I feel very proud that I actually foraged for some of this soup. And then over here I have the thickener. Now, you don't have to add this. This is completely a little special trick that I thought I'd show you. And then you can use a blender. You can use a handheld blender, or you can take this and you can put it in a blender that you have at your house. I just happen to have this, and it's very close and easy to do. And you can see what's happening. It's getting nice and thick. And I'm pureeing the potatoes. You can see how thick this is getting. So basically, I'm thickening my soup, and it's giving this wonderful flavor. And of course, this is going to be done to the last minute. And you can see how beautiful green that is. And then we'll move this over to the table. So this soup is ready to be served. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold in this wonderful base to thicken up my soup. As I said, you don't need to do this. I certainly think it's a great thing to do. And it gives it this wonderful sort of early spring look with all the colors. And then we're going to pour the soup. Okay, so now the soup's ready to go, and I highly recommend that you eat this soup right away. If you're not going to, then cool it down right away so you maintain the green color. It's going to be important. It will stay green, but the faster you cool it down, obviously, the better that will be. So this is for my wife, my daughter, my vegan daughter, and of course I have to have wine with it, which if you remember back when I did this soup, I poured a Roussanne. It's actually a 2007 Verdonjon from Châteauneuf-du-Pape. It's a Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blanc made with only 2 grapes, Roussanne and Claret, and no oak at all in this wine. So very clean, has some bottle age, has some wonderful sort of almond flavors, a little bit more citrus, but the citrus sort of muted a little bit with the age. Particularly good because it has a lot of floral aspects, which I think will be really good with this soup, which has a lot of fresh, green, herbaceous flavors. So, oh yeah, my favorite part of the day. And of course, then I'd have a little baguette because, after all, a little bit of bread to soak up the soup is great. And I hope you're enjoying everything, and I look forward to the next time.